hold my hands back so I don't cut a finger off. Yeah, so probably not a good idea to do that again. So I do kind of improvise a little bit. Yeah, I found a little piece of wood. And clearly I think that this is safe enough. So yeah, go ahead and do it again. Yeah. It did seem to manage to do the trick. So I've been woodworking now for a few months. I've always had a passion for woodworking, but haven't really ultimately got into it. And so I decided, well, enough was enough, and bought some tools and decided to get to work. I apologize for these little green hiccups in the video if there's any at the time of the rendering. The biggest issue is that my computer is a little bit on the slower side, and yeah, so it seems to want to have little glitches in it every now and again when I render the videos out, so please bear with that, and I apologize. The other thing is just so you know, this is a small project that I'm working on, which is part of a larger project. So this door that I'm building right now is actually a part of a larger cabinet. So it's got a cabinet that's for glasses and stuff, and then beside it there's going to be a space for a fridge, and then it's going to have a waterfall top. You'll see later on in the video the waterfall top is underneath the piece of wood that I'm working on, and I'm just, because I work a full-time job, I don't always have a lot of time to get in the shop and do some of this woodworking. I'm hoping at some point I will have enough subscribers and stuff where I could actually do this as a full-time job, but currently that's not the case. And so if you're really liking the content, the sooner I get to 1,000 subscribers and the sooner I get to, I don't know, a certain amount of hour views, the sooner I can start making money. You will also notice that on my videos, I don't have any links in the description. There's 0 links in the description. The reason why that is the case is, well, A, I don't know how right now how that stuff kind of all works out, but B, I figure once I hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, then I will start adding all that stuff into it. I recommend you don't follow me as to what I'm doing, because in the end, this has been heavily edited, so what you're seeing is not actually what's happening in most cases. So here I'm doing this beautiful sad attempt at trying to cut this board in half. And now I graduated to this nice saw. And as it turns out, this was a way better decision. Just be careful when you're doing this that the boards will pinch together once you get through it and possibly stick your blade in the pieces of wood, so just be careful when you're doing that. And here you go. Here's what it looks like after I cut it apart. So, yep, still needs a lot of work, but I think it looks good. And this was originally how I was going to do it, but I decided later on that we're going to do it a different way. And all I'm doing here is just picking out the dead rotted bits. Now I know you can put stabilization or stabilizer in the I think it's stabilizer or some sort of like thin epoxy that could probably work for this, but I've not used it, and until I do, I don't have any opinion on it. So here I am throwing some caulking on the boards just to make some sort of a dam, so that the epoxy doesn't keep flowing all across the table. Because oddly enough, when you add heat to epoxy, it definitely has a tendency of thinning out, spreading across the project. So if you're going to do this, I recommend always make some sort of a dam, because otherwise it won't do the job that you want it to do. It'll fill the hole somewhat, but it just has a tendency of wanting to just spread all over the place. So be aware of that when you're doing this. And here, all I'm doing is I'm just scraping or just kind of I don't know, scraping any bubbles and stuff out of it as I'm doing it. Throwing a little torch on it to pop any little bubbles, micro bubbles and stuff that are still there. I was originally going to use a router and put little feet on the router and then use that to try and clean it up, but this seemed to do the job way better. Yeah, the only issue was I had to physically manually push the board through and then grab it out the other side and pull it the rest of the way out, but it seemed to work out well. Now right here you see that again I'm still trying this whole idea out of having it like this, the knotted area kind of like right together with each other. And right now I'm just kind of lightly sanding certain areas just so that I can see what it looks like, or what it's going to look like put together like this. And unfortunately it doesn't seem to do, I don't know, it just seems a bit off. So I opted for this configuration, and now I just got to trim up the sides of the boards. So check my distance here on my skill saw to make sure that it is the distance that I want it to be. I put some clamp it on. My gosh, I just realized, boy, I don't have a lot of hair up top anymore. So to make a long story short, here I am getting this all set up, making sure that straight edge is straight. And now I realize that, oh yeah, I literally measured it to the exact width of the inside of the blade. So now I got to remeasure it all. Fun little learning exercise. Yeah. So now, trying to screw this up again and get this all on there. I'm not sure if you guys prefer me talking a lot or a little bit, or what it is kind of content you're looking for as far as the conversation goes, because I can describe all this stuff to you right now. I'm cutting these, kind of trimming them a little bit down to length here. I think in this situation I'm kind of still on the fence and about getting them butted up with the two knots close together, but I'm kind of trying to make sure everything's squared up and good here. here's some colorful language coming up. Okay, so now that I got that out of my system, we're right back into it. So getting these all clamped in there. I didn't have a video of the unclamping of these clamps, but I mean you get the gist of it as far as me clamping the clamps down, because you know. So I put the wood underneath in order to give me something to, or like a little bit of space, so I can tighten these up a little bit better. I think I got six clamps in total. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the footage of me trimming up the end pieces and stuff. So right in here, I'm just using a scribing knife to scribe the lines. When you're doing this, I just take your time. Like, I mean, you don't need to grind it into the wood right off the bat. Just take your time. Take a few, 3 light passes. Make sure your bevel is away from the side that you're putting your square onto, just like that. And then just some nice light passes just to get things started, and then you can go a little bit deeper. Fun fact, this little jig on the bottom of this block plane, was not a good idea. So, and oddly enough, I have this. Yes, this. A router with a 45-degree bevel edge on it. And I thought, I know, I'll get a jig for my block plane. Well, that didn't work out. It wrecked, or started to wreck the wood. So I, busted this bad boy out. So. And if you see there underneath there, that's the waterfall tabletop for the whole cabinet. Yeah. Just going around here, getting this all nice and chamfered. So if you see it, it looks a little wonky there, right where the right where there was that knot. Don't worry, I go back to it later and finish shaving off or finish chamfering the edge there. So rest assured, it does get finished. And just doing some light passes over certain areas and stuff. Like, I mean, what you see me doing on the video isn't what's been done in the real world. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of sanding. There's so much sanding, you're just sick and tired of sanding. But unfortunately, it has to be done in order for it to be, well, in order for it to be a good quality product, right? I'm not the best woodworker out there. Like I said, I haven't been doing it that long. But I mean, your clients expect, or whoever your clients might be, they expect a certain level of professionalism and quality. So yeah. So, and a part of that is sanding. There's so much sanding that's required because you need to go through each step of the sanding process in order to get the desired look that you're looking for. Yeah. I don't ultimately know what the recommended, how long you want to sit in one spot for as your, or the time sequence, how you want to be moving. Like if it's once, if it's 1 inch a second or if it's 5 inches a second, I have no idea. I just look at the wood as I'm sanding it and then feel it with my hands and take a look at it under a light and make sure that it's, there's none of those weird scratch patterns that are visible when you put the stain on and stuff. So, yeah. So always, this is probably one of my biggest advice I can give to anybody, and it's just make sure that you put pencil marks on your wood. And the biggest reason for that is because when you do that, you can just sand until the graphite disappears, and once you do, move on. And then that will help with maintaining a consistent sanding pattern, sanding grid. And for whatever reason, I felt the need to move the camera back. So even though you can't really see right here, I'm breaking the corners, right? So that chamfered edge, I'm just breaking some of that edge so it's not so sharp. It's definitely more appealing if you could just lightly sand off the edges a little bit. You don't want to be dramatic or anything. And the same with this side, right? The actual corner edge there, you wanna break it a little bit. You don't want it very sharp. It's less likely to chip too if you have it rounded slightly. So this is the bottom side, and this is how it looks after it's been all sanded and ready to go for stain. So I'm just blowing it off, getting all that dust out of the grains. So here I go, just staining away. So just throwing out some stain. So my next big purchase is a buffing wheel, because this, it takes a long time to do what I'm doing here, and also you do end up wasting a lot of stain. So if you can do anything in your power to minimize the amount of stain that gets lost and wasted, this is definitely recommended, is to get a buffing wheel and then put a little bit on and then just buff it in. I think it makes a world of difference as far as from the videos I've seen on the internet. I think it makes a world of difference as far as your amount that the amount of coverage you get. The amount of coverage you get with that, and I'm using Ruby Monocoat Pure, and I think it does a really nice coat on it. And just remember, buff, 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 buff. buff it all off. You want as much off as possible. You don't want anything sitting on the surface. Now, a little caveat here, or a little, I guess, I don't know how to describe it. It's a little oopsie I did. Um, the biggest oopsie is I think I put too much on it and then let it soak in so much, like too much actually. I don't know if that's a thing really. I just found that 2 weeks after I did this, when I came back out to deal with the door, I had found that the the Rubio monocoat it had sucked into the wood fibers, and then in the course of the following 2 weeks, with like humidity and temperature fluctuation, it literally pushed a whole bunch of that stuff out of the wood and just sat on the surface. So I had all these little bumps all over the place on the top of that surface. And I tried using a scratch pad. Nothing worked. I had to sand down the whole entire unit all over again and then redo the stain with less stain. So this is the first staining. So this is me putting on the copious amounts, but it sucked it right in so fast I could barely spread it out. It did make a huge difference after I sanded down the whole project and then put a light coating of Rubio monocoat on there and then buffed it off. It made a world of difference. Like it's nice, smooth, silky to the touch, so there's none of that issue at all. But if you really enjoyed the content, please give it a like and a subscribe. Those make a huge difference, as well as comments. Comments, liking, subscribing, ringing bell notifications, all those things make a huge difference as far as metrics go on YouTube. So if you like it, and I know a lot of people like to watch the video and then not do anything or say anything or anything like that, the feedback is always helpful. I always take it into consideration. I always think about it and try and figure out different and new ways to make a difference. So here's the finished door. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for taking the time to watch it.